Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Should I have?
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Hey everyone ever, and welcome to 20th Century Popcast, where we try and understand our present while living in the past. My name is Bob Canning, and if you are an avid listener of the show, you know that I don't usually do the opening. You know that, in fact, I fear doing the opening because I screw it up. I hope I did okay. The reason I'm doing the opening is because we're missing Tim Blevins, my co-host. He is not with us for this episode, and in his stead, we have a returning guest, Mr. Brent Simons.
Hello.
Brent, how are you?
I'm good. That opening was fantastic.
Was it all right?
It was great. It was great.
I try to avoid doing it. Every time I do it, I screw it up. I'm sure Tim will find a word or two I left out or changed.
Well, what does he do to you if you do screw it up?
He points it out.
What's going on here?
He stops the show and says, well, you did that a little differently than I would have wanted. Basically.
My God.
It's a lot of pressure. It really is. And I'm glad I've got someone to talk to about it because he's not really the kind of person I can open up to.
Maybe that should be the topic for today's show.
Well, just
how Tim is treating you.
This is not a bad idea. Maybe you and I
can take some calls.
Yes. We'll open the lines. We'll take some calls. How is Tim treating me? Hey, how is Tim treating you? Let's find out. But today, without Tim here, we've got a bit of a new segment. Anyone that knows the show knows that. Well, let me first go back and say, Brent, you are a returning guest. Folks may remember you from our Superman 2 episode. What was that, like 6-7 years ago?
I think so. I think it was before podcast.
It was a long time ago, and I hope people can go back and listen to it. I'm sure Tim will put that in the show notes. You can link right to it. So a big thank you for being a part of this. And what I was saying before is that we're doing a new segment. Thank you. A new segment that we haven't done before. We're calling it Pop Court, where we are going to debate the merits of one thing over the other in our 20th century pop culture world. In future episodes, it may be music, it may be artists, it may be films, but today it's going to be a couple of characters. This week, the Han Solo Star Wars story movie is being released, and so today we're going to talk about and compare and debate the merits and who is better than Han Solo. Who is better, Han Solo or Indiana Jones? And this is why Tim doesn't let me run the show. That was a terrible introduction. I kind of...
I think it was fantastic.
Did you follow it?
I'm just reacting to just that question. Who is better?
Well, I hope you know who's better.
And I mean, I do, and you do, and that's what we're going to get into. But I'm glad we were assigned arguments because, and I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that. But
no, that's fine. It's hard. We had to take a side.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you did because it's like if I had to choose, I don't know. I love them both, but I think I mean, we got to defend our sides, and one of them's going to come out the victor.
That's true, and it will be me.
Has to be.
So, without much further ado, we'll kind of get into it. What we're going to do is sort of a mock debate here, where we're going to discuss who's better than who. And as Brent has pointed out, we had these assigned to us, but actually, Brent, really yours was assigned. To no longer beat around the bush, Brent, you are going to be defending Han Solo. And really, you were assigned that because when the idea was brought up, comparing the two and debating which one was better, I immediately took Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So ultimately, yes, you got that assignment. I think because maybe I'm just more familiar. When I grew up, I had more access to Indiana Jones, and so I watched Indiana Jones more often, and I just feel like I'm more akin to that character. But like you're saying, I'm not knocking Han Solo. I'm only knocking him because I'm required to for the purpose of this show.
Right. Likewise.
Understood.
There will be knocking.
All right. So let's get ready. So for our listeners at home, what we're going to do is we're going to have some opening statements from each of us. These will be timed opening statements, and then I will present my evidence on why Indiana Jones is the better character, and I will present that within the realm of his best film. And again, these are just going to be original trilogies from our childhood, from the 20th century, although I guess prequels would fall in there, but we're only going to talk about the original trilogies here. Brent, then you'll have a chance to state your rebuttal against my evidence, and then also present your negative evidence to kind of dictate why you think Indiana Jones is not a good character.
And we should probably also clear up right now, the Star Wars Holiday Special is not included in this debate, right?
That is correct. We
okay.
will not be including that.
I know the audience is waiting to know that, and that's great. Thank God.
I appreciate you clearing that up. And so then after your evidence against Indiana Jones, you will present your evidence for Han Solo. I will rebut that. And then I will also present my negative evidence against Han Solo by presenting his worst film. And then we'll have final statements. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Man, I hope that was clear.
I think it's clear. Crystal.
Okay. Crystal. Fantastic. Okay, so we're just going to jump right into it. And let me get my timer together, because with our opening statements, we want to keep this to about 2 minutes, sir. Okay. If you start to go long, I will moderate you and make sure to cut you off. If you feel I'm going long, since we're missing Tim, who would be moderating this, if you feel I'm going long, you can go ahead and try and stop me, but we'll see how that turns out.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So Tim is going to edit that long pause, and I appreciate that, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, so, all right, opening statements for our first 20th century pop court. I will be defending Indiana Jones in our first pop court. Indiana Jones, also known as Henry Jones Jr., is a distinguished professor of archaeology, a finder of rare antiques. He is smart, he is sexy, and he knows how to use a bullwhip. He fights Nazis, he saves children, he fights Nazis. His adventures are chronicled in 3 films, Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. And I was aware of Indiana Jones when I was a child, ahead of my first viewing of one of those films. That first film that I saw was The Temple of Doom. So I didn't see Raiders first. I was presented with Temple of Doom, and so following up on those movies, things just got better and better for me. He is an icon of cinema. He is an icon of adventure, and he by far is the better character. I don't know if that was 2 minutes, but that is the end of my opening statement. Brent?
That seemed like a perfect 2 minutes, yeah.
Are you prepared for yours?
I am. Han Solo is the captain of the Millennium Falcon. He is best friend to co-pilot Chewbacca. He is a rogue. He is a scoundrel. And ultimately, he is a general. He gets out of trouble as well as he gets into trouble. And I don't know if I mentioned this, he's a crackpot pilot. He ran the Kessel Run in, a couple of parsecs, which is impressive. And I think, and to me, my introduction to him was Star Wars. Was probably seeing it in the theater and during its original release. It's maybe my earliest movie-going memory. And immediately I came home and I grabbed my toy gun, which were cool to have back then, and they looked real. And I started pretending I was Han Solo, and I think I've been trying to be him ever since. He is a quintessential Harrison Ford character. He is maybe the coolest character in film history, and I don't think there would be an Indiana Jones without him.
All right. That's pretty good opening statement there, Brent.
Thank you.
This is going to be a very difficult decision that ultimately our listeners at home are going to have to make.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's move on. I
wouldn't want to be them to have to make this decision. Yeah.
But they have to. We demand it.
They have to be them.
So let's move on. I don't want to rebuke anything there, but we'll get into this, and we'll move on to presentation of evidence. I will go first again with Indiana Jones, and I will present the key film that I think best represents Indiana Jones. I've got my timer fixed this time, so I'm going to set this. And again, if you feel like I'm going long, please cut in. But
Okay.
I'll keep this short. Here we go. Key film that best represents the character Indiana Jones is by far Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not only is it a fantastic representation of Indiana Jones, it is simply just a stellar representation of the power of cinema itself. And our introduction to Indy is absolute perfection. In the first 10 minutes of the movie, he staves off an assassination attempt with a whip. He finds a cursed hidden jungle temple. He outsmarts all the booby traps. He retrieves the idol. He outruns a boulder and makes it out of there alive. Does he lose the idol? Yes. Because he's human. He's fallible. He's imperfect. He's us. We could be Indiana Jones. All we would need to do is study archaeology, and then we could go on that same adventure. I could be Indiana Jones. He never gives up. When he's tasked to search for the Ark of the Covenant, he does what everyone should be doing: fights Nazis. He's not going to let them get that. He's not going to let them get the possible power that it holds. And so he stops at nothing to do it. He has gunfights. He fights strongmen on the wings of airplanes with propellers running. He battles through explosions, snakes, fistfights, car chases, submarine chases. And ultimately, face-melting souls can't even stop him. Raiders of the Lost Ark is not only just this fantastic movie, which is inarguable, I would say, but it is the quintessential Indiana Jones film. It is our introduction to him as a whole, and in those first 2 minutes, or 10 minutes, you are just, if you don't fall in love with Indiana Jones at that very moment, then I feel sorry for you. And that is why Indiana Jones is the best character that Harrison Ford has ever played. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. Well said. Well said. And now my rebuttal? Is it?
Yes, sir.
Do we go right into it?
To try and argue that.
Okay. Yeah, well, here I go. I'm going to start off by actually agreeing with you. It is the perfect example of Indiana Jones' character. And Indiana Jones's character, as defined by Rosio and Elliott, once upon a time, famous screenwriters, is he is a character that fails upwards. And yes, he finds an idol, he finds the Ark, and he proceeds to lose them both. He is a victim of his own mistakes, and he makes a lot of them, and he gets out of them through sometimes just sheer luck, not skill. And it's you know, he's lucky. We like him because he kind of just makes things in the nick of time and gets out by the skin of his teeth. But is that good enough? I question that.
Oh, and that's time. You made it.
Really? Was that like 2 minutes right on the dot?
No, I'm going to say that's time, and it's going to sound like it was exactly on the dot, and everyone would be very impressed with your skill.
Oh, wow.
But you know, we'll cut that part out.
Oh, okay. I've no sense of time.
That was a strong rebuttal, Brent. I'll admit, I don't think it wins the argument, but a strong rebuttal. So now, sir, you have your. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so now I was going to ask. Just so I'm clear, so now it says negative evidenced worst film. Is that something I bring up?
Yes, sir. So now it is your chance to not only rebut what I've spoken about, now you can present any new evidence, and specifically what you feel is the worst film that Indiana Jones is in of the first three, and why, and how this affects you liking him more or less than Han Solo as a character.
Well, I'd have to say probably Indiana Jones' worst film of the original trilogy is widely considered to be The Temple of Doom, which is actually a prequel. Because you know, they had to go back to when he's even less experienced, because that's what makes a character what he is. It's like he's kind of fumbling about, and he has to kind of learn these lessons, and he has to actually learn not to be shallow and seek fortune and glory in Temple of Doom. And so it's and that film is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. He falls out of an airplane. He ends up captured by a cult. He loses Short Round. He loses his girlfriend. He gets possessed himself. He actually gets possessed. The most humiliating thing that can happen to a character. Ask Hawkeye from the Avengers. He's not even himself for a couple of minutes of the movie. And what turns him into the hero we all know and love? A good slap. Your hero, Bob, is slapped in the face. And that's what it takes. I just don't think, yeah. I mean, Han Solo would never be in this situation. Frankly, I'm disgusted.
And we'll say that's time. All right. Brent, those are some pretty negative things you had to say about Indiana Jones.
I feel so dirty right now.
I hope you do. I hope you do. How dare you, but...
How dare you? Tim, if you're listening, this is sound bites galore. You should have the "How dare you" from The Fugitive ready to go at a moment's notice as we're talking.
Oh my God, he should use that repeatedly. Thank you. Thank you for that, Brent. I don't have a space for a rebuttal now. That will come up. Okay. So let's take a little deep breath. Cleanse your palate, Brent, because now you have to turn positive. And you have to give your key evidence that Han Solo is the better character. You can mention the key film he's in and how you feel this best represents him as a character, as a man, and more to the point, as better than Indiana Jones. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So the key Han Solo film is definitely Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And because you meet this man who at first seems selfish, he at first seems like an orphan except for his hairy co-pilot, and he ends up finding purpose. And not only does he take a crazy mission brought to him by an old hermit and a virgin, he he sets out on the galaxy, he saves a princess, and he single-handedly saves just the entire galaxy by pulling Luke Skywalker's ass out of the fire. He is a man who becomes a hero despite himself by ultimately at the end finding faith with the simple words, "May the Force be with you."
All right, that's time. Brent, it is now time for my rebuttal of your Star Wars A New Hope argument. And talk about, and I'm starting right now, I'm going right into it. Talk about failing up. That's all Han Solo does in this movie. His main goal, you talk about finding faith in the Force, that's just something he decided to do at the end for his own well-being. His main goal is money. He wants to be paid. That's all he cares about. He's only with Luke and Obi-Wan because they pay him to fly them to Alderaan. He ends up rescuing the princess only because they get stuck there in the Death Star. The rescue of the princess was Luke's idea. Once they get in there, they can't get out until Leia figures out how to get out, not Han. His success always comes from others. He didn't even escape the Death Star. Vader let him do that. That was all part of its plan. And to say that he single-handedly saved the universe, you forget about Luke Skywalker being the one actually in the trenches taking that shot. So, Brent, I'm sorry, but your argument that A New Hope is what represents Han Solo as being a great character, any better than Indiana Jones? You say Indiana Jones fails up? That's all Han Solo does. I mean, he was out of there. He wasn't even going to stick around to help. And he only stuck around to help because now he gets to keep the money himself. He doesn't have to pay off Jabba. And you can't see it, but I'm wiping my hands right now. I'm done.
Dropping the mic. 8 Mile.
How does that feel?
Nice. Nice.
Okay. I think I'm swaying you a bit. That's what's happening. You're kind of understanding that Han Solo wasn't the best one to get.
I mean, now, do you want me to kind of contradict some of those statements?
You know what? We're gonna have an open. Let's have an open session at the end of the format. At the end of the format, we'll have an open discussion about all of this.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, because right now it's my turn, and let me reset the timer. And if folks at home, you can believe or not believe that I'm actually using a timer, but I'm going to reset the timer. It's my turn now to present the negative evidence, the worst film that represents Han Solo. And so I'll begin now. Honestly, now that I've spoken out loud about A New Hope, I could almost say that's the worst film. I'm not going to, but I feel like I almost could. Instead, I'm going to say that it is, of course, Return of the Jedi. Now, people can argue their pluses and minuses over Return of the Jedi, but I'm going to focus on Han Solo's story. First, he's captured, frozen in carbonite. He's not even in the first, 20 minutes, except as a statue. And then when he melts, he's still in trouble. They can't get him out. Nobody is able to save him. Again, failing up. He can barely see. He knocks Boba Fett off the barge there accidentally. Accidentally. That's how... I mean, I feel bad for Boba Fett. I'd much rather have been a fight. But that's all he does. He just turns around. Boop. Then what does he do? He volunteers to help dismantle the... what is it? The force field ray. The terminology has lost me right now. The shield generator. He goes to destroy the shield generator. He volunteers for that. And what does he do? He gets captured by teddy bears. Han Solo gets captured by teddy bears. He is literally roasting on the spit, and Luke saves him by tricking the Ewoks into believing that there's a god, and C-3PO grants them. If C-3PO wanted, he could have said, yes, free everyone, but please eat Han. Because he couldn't have gotten out of it himself. Han could not have done it. He couldn't get into the shield generator to turn it off. He was going to be killed by a stormtrooper, or at least captured, and then Leia saved him. He couldn't get in, and then Chewie comes back and gets him in. He finally blows the thing up, but it wasn't really him. It was just everybody else and a bunch of teddy bears. That's what Han Solo needs to get a job done. Again, wiping the hands.
I think you were a little mean to the Ewoks.
It felt mean. I'll admit that felt a little mean.
A little mean,
but
to the
I wanted
Ewoks.
to make a strong. I wanted to make a strong argument. It's not about the Ewoks. It's about how much Han Solo needed them after being defeated by them. All right, this does feel dirty and wrong.
This is dirty.
I agree.
It's dirty.
This is hard to do.
Dirty. It's hard. It's hard.
Do you need to cleanse your palate again? Because we've reached the end of our arguments. We're going to have our final statements. And I want to see if you need a deep breath. Prepare yourself. Do you want to? We've decided that you get to go first with your final statement. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Sure. I'm sorry. I thought I heard screaming out in my apartment hallway.
Interesting.
But I think I'm fine. I think I'm fine.
Your wife is in the apartment, correct?
No, she's actually out.
Oh dear God.
No, she's fine. There's probably a football game or something on.
Okay. There isn't, but okay.
Oh no.
It's probably it's either hockey or basketball.
Oh, okay. Probably hockey.
Okay. Okay, Brent Simons. Here you've reached the pinnacle moment where you can now make your final statement. What we'd look for here in your final statement is what you consider the single coolest, most iconic moment for your character, Han Solo.
So just what his...
Yeah, it's really what you feel is the pinnacle moment. Is it him coming back and single-handedly, doing air quotes, saving the universe? Is it a moment of romance? Is it a moment of lying to someone to get his way? You decide.
So for my closing statement, I'm going to say that Han Solo's moment is the entire trilogy, because I think you define a hero by the journey he goes on. And he starts off as a man who, you're right, is in for himself, but he goes from that to a leader of men. He goes from being a mercenary with no cause to a general who's fighting for the greatest cause of all, the Force and the rebellion against the Empire. Indiana Jones starts a teacher, and he ends a teacher. And he kind of repeatedly goes through the same journey. There's room for growth with Han Solo, which we end up seeing later. And I think he ultimately changes as a person, which is probably the most heroic thing of all.
Well done, sir. That is a fine closing statement.
Thank you.
Did that feel good? You kind of cheated.
So.
You kind of cheated a little, but I'll let that slide. Well, a single iconic.
By using all three films?
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch for a single iconic moment, but we'll let that go. We'll let that go because I think my single iconic moment in my closing statements is going to be enough. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, so I am going to, again, start my timer. I will be well under the time because I don't need to say a lot about this moment. So for my final statement, my closing argument, to speak of Indiana Jones' single most iconic moment that makes him the better character over Han Solo. It happens in Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he's racing through the streets of Cairo, fighting off assailants as he searches for his kidnapped Marion Ravenwood. The crowd suddenly parts, and Indiana is face to face with an expert swordsman, wielding those blades around and around, this face of terror, ready to duel to the death right there in the street. So there, in that moment, in a desert town full of scum and villainy, Indy shoots first. Boom, that's it. Seriously, speechless.
Because he had diarrhea. Everyone, he shoots first because Harrison Ford had diarrhea.
That's not in the movie.
Wow, that's heroic.
That's a failing of Harrison Ford. I'm saying in this moment, that's iconic Indiana Jones. He's not going to take your bullshit.
In my head, the character also has diarrhea every time I watch the movie now because I know that story.
Yeah.
I know that's not a classy rebuttal, but it's the one I'm making.
It's hard to not know that. Like, once you know that, it's hard to forget that. That's true. Yeah. That is true.
Because he looks all sweaty in that scene. It looks like he could use a sip of water and maybe a Pepto. It's like he doesn't look happy that he just shot the guy. It's just like, say cut, Steven, so I can get out of here and poop my masterpiece. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get
No, the show is nothing but crass, so thank you. So that concludes our very first 20th Century Popcast, Pop Court. Brent, how do you think it went?
It was interesting. It was interesting. I feel dirty talking bad about any of these characters, but I think we also learned a lot about both of them.
Yeah, I also think we learned. I think we learned how easily you and I can be turned to the dark side, so to speak, and hate a character or find failings in characters that obviously we both very much love.
Yeah. Like we would probably make great cult members. like if that guy from Temple of Doom came to us, we would be like, yeah.
Let's do it.
You don't even need to possess us because we're willing to go to that dark place. We'll tear out hearts, sure. Yeah.
Just give us a break now and again, give us a little place to hang out. But then we'll be right out there on the ledge.
Yeah, some chilled monkey brains and snack on.
Yeah,
good.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think my takeaway here, and I think the takeaway a lot of our audience might have, is that we kind of needed a moderator. I think that would have helped.
Tim was missed, but Tim is always missed.
He is, whenever he's not there.
He's even when he's here, he's missed. If that makes
it. Yeah. It doesn't, but okay.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense at all, sir.
No.
Do you think any of our arguments, either for or against, basically, actually, just for the against, do you think any of our against arguments hold merit, or were we just trying to make that side happen?
I think, I think the flaws we point out in both of them are valid flaws, but it's like important for heroes to have their flaws.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what makes them heroes. Like the things I was pointing out about Indiana Jones is what makes Indiana Jones Indiana Jones. And it's like, he does, he fails a lot, but he doesn't quit. He pulls himself out of it. The things you were saying about Han Solo is totally right. He's a selfish prick, but he's not as selfish as you want him, as he wants you to believe he is. It's and that's kind of why we love him.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford's so good at playing that type of character. They are kind of like shadows of each other, which is kind of interesting when you talk about both of them. And it's also weird because one is the star of his movies, and the other is kind of he's a part of an ensemble, but is such a big character that he's probably, I would argue, probably more popular than Luke. I think.
Oh, definitely more popular than Luke. That's easy. Maybe not as popular as Chewie, but definitely more popular than Luke. It's interesting that you say that one's definitely the star of the movie, the other's in an ensemble. And here we now have coming up a solo Han Solo movie.
Yes.
And I haven't seen it. I don't know if you've seen any previews.
I have
early screenings or anything.
No.
But the trailers, again, lead me to believe that it's more of an ensemble still. Because I think that's where Han fits in a way.
Oh, interesting.
But,
yeah. No, it looks like and I don't know if this is the case, but yeah, it looks like a heist film, which absolutely is, yeah.
Getting the team together.
Yeah.
Are you? Clearly, it sounds like you're very much looking forward to the movie.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. Really looking forward to seeing Donald Glover as Lando. I don't know much about the actor playing Solo, but I loved that they got the screenwriter of Empire Strikes Back to write this movie. Which is probably my favorite Star Wars film. So. I'm excited. But then again, I'm excited for anything Star Wars, so yeah, I'm all in.
Awesome. And I guess we might as well mention this too. I hear there's going to be another Indiana Jones movie as well.
Yeah.
I haven't read too much about this one, except that folks are signed on. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard, it seems like it's a go. They got a screenwriter. I forget who that is. Harrison Ford has long said he's ready. I believe they've even announced it as Spielberg's next movie.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, again, I'm all in. I wasn't such a big fan of Crystal Skull, but that maybe makes me more excited to see this because I think they're eager to kind of make this better, make this, which, I think they've said it would most likely be the last, so making it the best yet.
I like hearing that, and that makes sense. It's like you learn from your mistakes. You go Raiders and then Temple, and then they correct it with Last Crusade. And I hate that we didn't really to talk about Last Crusade too much.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I love that movie.
I love it. I think it's one of the best sequels of anything, actually.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
The father-son stuff.
The father-son stuff, the mini prequel stuff, it's awesome. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Love it. In fact, I believe I've been trying to talk to Tim about possibly doing that one as well. I know we've talked about Temple of Doom in an earlier episode. Find it in the show notes. And obviously we're talking about this now, so we'll probably have to wait half a year or so, and maybe we'll have you back perhaps to talk about
that'd be excellent.
Last Crusade. Hopefully we'll have you back as well sometime in the future to perhaps do another Pop Court if you're interested, if we can find something you want to defend.
Yeah. No,
and maybe we can actually have something where we'll have a real argument. This was difficult. We both love Han. We both love Indy.
Yeah.
So we're gonna close it up. I do want to ask all of our listeners to go on to our 20th Century Popcast website. The link is going to be the link to vote for your who you feel won this argument. I'm not going to ask you to vote for Indy over Han, but do vote for, did I win my argument for Indy, or did Brent happen to show up for this episode? That's a little bit of a burn. Sorry, Brent.
Let's just say that there's some Corellian credits for you if you vote my way. Can I bribe the listeners?
You can absolutely bribe the listeners. Go for it. I don't know if they're going to go for the Corellian credits, but do what you think you can do. So go to 20popcast.com. That's the website, 20popcast.com. You can find the link to vote in the show notes. I look forward to seeing what those results are. Brent, I want to thank you again for coming along.
Thanks for having me.
It was a rough ride without Tim here. He hopefully will be back next week, and will right the ship and probably critique me on how I opened the show. In the meantime, Brent, before we sign off, did you have anything you'd want to promote and let those listeners know how they can maybe reach out and follow you?
I'm just Brent Simons on Twitter.
Just Brent Simons.
I'm just
you know what? Hold on. I think I took it for granted that you were a return guest, and I didn't fully introduce you as the screenwriter that you are, co-screenwriter of Megamind, and currently doing all the screenwriting stuff that you can possibly do. So you're not just Brent Simons. I say follow the guy. You're on Twitter, is that right?
Yeah, I Brent Simons at Twitter. I'm not a social media expert, so is that how you say your tweet?
That's how you say
Twitter handle.
That's how you say your tweet.
I think I'm also giving my Brent Simons at Brent Simons. Is that how you do it?
That's perfect. And if that's not exactly accurate, I'm sure we can find the link in the show notes as well. You can follow me if you so desire at RH Canning on Twitter. You can find the 20th Century Popcast on Facebook. Tim always closes this out so much better than I do too. So hopefully he's playing us out with some music. And thank you again, Brent. And thank you, listeners at home. Go vote. Usually we end with some sort of random statement as a catchphrase. Do you have anything that you perhaps would like to share? Like just like some sort of, I don't know. We can't use Excelsior and we can't use catchphrase because we used that before. So anything you want to close the
how dare you?
Yeah, let's do. Yeah, that sounds great. I was talking over that, so I'm going to pause and give us one more good one.
How dare you?
Can you do that one more time, a little further back from the mic so it doesn't flare up too much?
Okay. How dare you?
That was a good one. Can you try one more time with a bit of a French accent?
Okay. How dare you?
That's perfect. Thank you, Brent.
All right.
Hey everyone ever, this is Tim Blevins. Real quick, just like Bob just said, you the listener can now participate in the next episode of 20th Century Popcast simply by clicking through the link in the show notes or visiting 20popcast.com and voting on which argument won today's debate. Is smuggling rogue Han Solo or bumbling rogue Indiana Jones the most iconic character of Harrison Ford's career? Voting starts at the exact time this episode drops and runs all the way through 11:59 p.m. on Thursday, May 31st. After the initial tallies, the winning votes will decide the topic of our very next episode in 2 weeks. That's right, we are off the air next week, but we will be back to our mostly weekly schedule on June 7th with episode 67, covering either Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, or Raiders of the Lost Ark. You decide. There, I'm on the episode.